You're watching National Streaming Sports. Over 20 podcasts, 70 shows, and a 3.5-star rating on Roku TV.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for Mac and Jack in the morning here on National Streaming Sports. We're also broadcasting on my TGI Sports Talk platforms as well this morning. I know that Linda had sent out a message that the Mac and Jack show wouldn't be airing until Mac was feeling better. He's feeling pretty sore and still recovering. But we asked me to fill in last night. Jack was a little confused, and I guess he may not be with me this morning. And we'll see. I don't know if Mac will be back tomorrow, or I might pop in and fill in for a short show tomorrow. But we'll do our best to keep you entertained for an hour. We'll certainly deal with your comments, and we'll also good morning, Dave Guyette. We'll certainly address some of the topics of the day. We'll talk a little bit about Green Bay and Detroit tonight. Trevor Lawrence out for the year. Rodgers had some comments yesterday that he's got nothing to prove. Is that right? How good is the Bears' job? Major League Baseball, we can talk about the ridiculous Manfred suggestion that they go to a golden rule batter in baseball. Come on, stop. The NBA, the Knicks are in the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. Does anybody care? Knicks are playing good basketball, by the way, and the Lakers, who won this cup and hung the banner proudly last year, ridiculously enough, are not in that, and they're swooning a little. They've got beat by 41 last night. And we can talk, I'll give you a couple of college football picks for tomorrow, and we can talk a little bit about the playoff as well. And we'll talk whatever you guys want. You guys can keep this show going as long as we need to. And there's Robert Butler. Looks like he said hello. We got a few people in, so don't hesitate to comment. Dave Guyette, again, I'll give you a little congratulations. I think you were on Sunday on my Sunday Stream of Consciousness, and we talked about the Syracuse victory over Miami, which has effectively knocked Miami not just out of the ACC championship game, but also out of the playoff. There's really no path, I don't think, for Miami to be in this field. If SMU, and I talked about this on the College Football Huddle last night, so I won't go into too great a detail. But the only path that I think they don't have a path, actually. Boise loses, UNLV is going to get that spot. They're in the 12th spot, but Iowa State or Arizona State, who I like a lot, is going to get that 12th spot, the Big 12 as the Big 12 champion. SMU loses to Clemson. Clemson will steal a spot, but it might be either SMU's or Alabama's. That's the tough decision that's going to happen. All these other championship games, it's important for seeding. It's important for buys. But the one that really matters is going to be SMU Clemson, and then what happens to SMU if they lose and Alabama if they lose. That's really the only scenario that's open for discussion. There could be some jockeying. You could see a different team in there than Boise State, but it will be a group of 5 teams. So Miami's out. No way to get in. Let's look at the Green Bay game tonight. Green Bay and Detroit, a game separating them, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in the standings. Green Bay's won their last 3, 2 of them by double digits. Detroit, with the best record in the league at 11-1. I believe they got the best point differential in the league. Their defense has been improved. Well, not great. It's improved. The offense continues to click. They win games that maybe they shouldn't. They get a little bit of again, luck is a residue of good design. So when I say luck, I'm not saying they're a lucky team. I'm saying that, your luck, you make your own luck in this league. And listen, they put some pressure on the Bears and they got ahead of the Bears. The Bears fought back last Thursday, but we all know what happened with the clock and Matt Eberflus being fired. And I personally think he wasn't fired because of the clock. I personally think he was, again, he would have gotten fired at the end of the year without a great run by the Bears, which they did last year. But his biggest fault here wasn't, and this was a big enough, the fault of the mental errors of letting that clock just run and run and run and no timeout and getting one play off in 32 seconds is bad enough. I think the thing that really ends up getting Matt Eberflus fired is the aftermath, and not just saying, boy, did we screw up bad. We could not have screwed this up worse. And that falls on me. Now, he did say it falls on him, but he also said things kind of played out the way we thought they would. That's the cardinal sin. If that was the plan, you just admitted how inept you are as a head coach. So Detroit's played and won games they should not have won, theoretically, but they won games that good teams find a way to win. The Houston game, for instance, game's well in hand. They come back and they win on the road. So tonight, with all that said, Green Bay, and anytime we talk about odds, they're brought to you by BetUs.com. You can go to National Streaming Sports and access that link and go there and subscribe. And it's good for National Streaming Sports, and it might be good for you because you'll get some joining gifts, if you will. Tonight's game is 3.5 points. Detroit, the over is 51.5. I like the over in this game myself. I don't know. I think Jack got confused because I'll divert to Rick's question. Good morning, Rick. Good to have you with us. Linda had sent a message yesterday saying that there would be no Mac and Jack shows until Mac was recovered sufficiently to resume his chores here. And Mac had messaged me late yesterday, and asked if I would fill in. And I had a little time. I got up and did some work early and had a little time to be able to do this for an hour. And I sent Jack the invite, and he thought it was going to be for Friday. So I don't think Jack will be joining us, which we'll miss him, but we'll get by. And if I'm here tomorrow, then hopefully Jack will be with me then. And hopefully Mac will be back tomorrow. Going forward, I think Friday's the only day I'll be able to fill in on this show. And I enjoy doing it, by the way. It's a matter of bandwidth for me. I don't necessarily have the bandwidth. And as you can hear from my voice, I'm a little scratchy because I was on from basically, 3 straight hours last night with the professional sports show, my own college football huddle. Then I was on with Robert Butler on Sports Scope at 8:30. So this old voice starts to get a little cranky after a while. Anyway, back to the Packers and Lions. Packers have played well. They lost the first meeting between these two teams by 10 at home. Love may have still been recovering a bit at that point in time. But again, injuries aren't excuses. Nobody's been more injured than Detroit in the league, probably. Maybe Miami. Goff's played good. I mean, we talk about a sophomore slump for Love, but Goff's numbers, while leading the best team in the league, they're about the same as Love's. I'd like to have my quarterback have a sophomore slump like this next year with a 9-3 record. So 2 games, I think I said 1 earlier, 2 games behind the Lions. Important win for the Packers, but also an important win for the Lions. If they want to take control of this NFC, which they will have, they have now. But they win this game. The only teams close to them are the Eagles and the Packers. 2-game lead on each. Who do the Eagles play this week? The Eagles have a losable game this week. I got the Panthers. They won't lose. By the way, sorry, Sonia. The referees are not out to get the Panthers. There's zero reason to do that. They can lose games all by themselves. Oh God, I have such a serious problem with these with and again, not Sonia. I'm not picking on Sonia. She just happened to be the one last night on the professional sports show, brought it up, and my message will never change here. Don't get beat by referees. There is no scripting in the NFL. There is no we want this team to win and this team to lose. And if you think there is, stop watching. I mean, gosh, I'm not going to stop. Again, I'm sorry, Sonia. This isn't delivered at you. But this is a big game because the Lions will have a 3-game lead over the Packers and probably a stranglehold on the North, the NFC North, and still 2 games in hand against the Eagles. So 1 win behind the Packers. No, that's not true. Hang on 1 second, Rick. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Vikings. I was talking about the Packers. I didn't mean to eliminate your Vikings here. My bad. They have a 1-game lead over Minnesota for the division and for the best record in the league. I'm sorry. I had those teams in front of me, and I was focused on those teams. So no disrespect to your Vikings, playing very good football, and won 5 in a row. The Lions have won 10 in a row. The Packers have won 3 in a row. The only team in this division who's really stinking it up is the Bears. I am going to tell you that I like Green Bay tonight. I don't know why. I do think they get some retribution here. The Lions are kind of due to have a down game and potentially lose. I like the over more than anything. I won't bet the game. If I do bet the game, it's going to be the over at 51.5. This division, though, is really good. I had picked 3 teams to get to the playoffs out of this division. Rick, I did not pick your Minnesota Vikings, though. I picked the Bears, and that is blown up in my face, obviously. And it brings up the good question. And we talked a little bit about it last night, but we kind of diverted. I mean, how good is this Bears job? How attractive is it? You know, from a personnel standpoint, I think there's some good players on this team. You've got a young quarterback who, by the way, has not played very bad. He played pretty well, in fact. There's been times where he has what the heck did I just do? I'm not sure what I did. He's played pretty well at times, actually. They found ways to lose. The coaching staff has not done their rookie quarterback any favors. Candidates. Now, a couple of interesting names have come up in this coaching search. Obviously, Ben Johnson, the Lions coordinator, who is not making $13 million a year. That's what he's demanding, supposedly, from teams he's interviewed for in the past to be a head coach. But he's going to get talked to, and whether the Lions want to lose him to a division rival is certainly something that's up for consideration. You will hear Thomas Brown, who's their interim coach right now, and was, I believe, what was he? I believe he was he was just hired to be the offensive coordinator less than a month ago. I mean, again, you know how I feel about interim coaches, and you know they have a little bit of success, and you end up with a guy you shouldn't have. Bobby Slowick, whose stock has dropped a little bit in Texas. Their offense has struggled at times this year. I don't know that it's Slowick's problem. They had some injuries. Nico Collins out for a long time. Stroud is had a bit of a sophomore slump, but still pretty good. Man, we want perfection out of these quarterbacks, and it's crazy. It's crazy. He'll be a candidate. Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator of Tampa Bay, is mentioned. Joe Brady is going to be mentioned for every job available. The offensive coordinator for the Bills, who had a tremendous year. Mike Vrabel, who's an assistant right now with Cleveland, he's going to get a job in this cycle. This would be a good spot for him. And his old boss, his old coach, I should say, Bill Belichick, will be on the radar of every team this year. Bill Belichick will be back coaching on the sidelines next year. Dan Pitcher, Bengals offensive coordinator, may be in line for his own team's job if Zach Taylor doesn't get things turned around here. Zach Robinson, offensive coordinator for the Falcons. Brian Flores, very interesting, is getting mentioned for a lot of these jobs. I'm not sure that they want a defensive guy here in Chicago. I think with Caleb Williams and some of the offensive threats they have, they may want to hire an offensive guy. Also, there's the Flores issue with the suit against the league, and he's done a tremendous job. I thought he did a good job in Miami. I was one of the few guys who defended him when the owner asked him to tank games, and he basically refused. He butted heads with Tua. And Tua, as it turns out, they had a choice between Flores and Tua. They chose the quarterback who's, you look at them numbers wise and they look fine, but the team doesn't win big games. Would they be winning those with Brian Flores? I don't know. But I think Brian Flores will get another shot. Excuse my hiccups. And it could be in this arena. Greg Roman's name always comes up. It's been coming up, it feels like, for 20 years. I don't think he's ever going to get another job. Aaron Glenn's name, the defensive coordinator for the Lions, who's done a great job there. Again, the Lions will do whatever they can, I'm sure, to keep losing either their offensive or defensive coordinator within the division. Drew Petzering is another name. Kellen Moore, Eagles offensive coordinator, will eventually be a head coach in this league. Unsure. Cliff Kingsbury, who has a history with Caleb Williams. He was an assistant at USC during his senior year, I believe. And Kingsbury has an up and down track record in both college and the pros, but he has an offense. He's a good offensive coordinator, but is he going to be the right head coach? I don't know. An intriguing one that'll really blow Rick's head off is Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman has ties to the Chicago area. Notre Dame has really been one of the dominant teams in college football especially since they lost to Northern Illinois early in the season. I think he's done a very good job. I was a very big promoter of Marcus Freeman for 3 years, defending him on my shows, and was very harsh on Marcus Freeman after that loss to Northern Illinois, mostly because of the way they lost. They never should have lost that game. It was tied in a great deal to the way they were using Riley Leonard. Since that game, this team has been the best offense in college football with a realistic chance. Maybe their best chance is 1988 of winning a national championship, because this is a wide open field. There's no dominant team. Oregon, maybe undefeated, beat Ohio State during the regular season, beat all comers, obviously. But not, to me, that type of team that is just a juggernaut, like some of the Georgia teams in recent years, some of the Alabama teams and a little bit further back, or some of the Clemson teams for even further back. There's no great team out there in this. And if Notre Dame should find a way to get the 5 spot, the 5 spot's a place to come out of the college football huddle, they'll have a shot. So I digress a little bit. I think this is a good job. And I do think you're going to get I think you're probably going to get a young assistant here, although they went Eberflus, who's not really a young assistant, but I think they go an offensive-minded guy. I think Ben Johnson will be on their radar. The Bears' problem might be more about ownership again. It's still in the Hallis family, has been since God created football. So we'll see what happens there. Some other news around the NFL. Trevor Lawrence is on the IL. Is Trevor Lawrence now a bust? I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I talked about this with Jeremy on my show last Friday morning. The kneecap biter. I'm forgetting Jeremy's last name now. Bellum. I don't want to say it wrong. Jeremy B. He was comparing Lawrence's numbers to, I think, Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones' numbers compare at least favorably, if not better, than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence had one really good year, took the team to the playoff, led them to a comeback victory, but he's been very up and down since, and I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's the player and his commitment. The talent's there, but he's out for the year, and they signed him to this huge contract in the offseason that a lot of people derided. Again, these owners keep shooting themselves in the foot and their cohorts by just continually give foolish contracts to guys who are not, in my mind, deserving of those types of contracts. Now, again, remember, I say everybody deserves whatever somebody's willing to pay them, whether you're worth it or whether you earn it. I guess worth is different. You're worth whatever somebody's willing to pay you, to be consistent. Whether you earn your money is different. And there's also the repercussion when you give out crazy contracts that, you know, there's going to be repercussions all around the league. And this contract has caused problems. Dak Prescott's contract has caused problems. Kirk Cousins signs for big money. It all started with Deshaun Watson. And the common denominator with these guys is nobody's ever won a thing or come close to winning a thing. Divisions. When I talk about things, I mean championships, or at least reaching a Super Bowl. Things have got to get back into some kind of normalcy. But again, there's no way. Once salaries go up, it is very hard to rein them in and bring them down, because when you do, players scream collusion. So you're stuck. Some other NFL news. Jesus, I mean, Aaron Rodgers just needs to either stop answering questions or stop going on Pat McAfee. Might be a great idea. He sent a strong ownership message to ownership yesterday, or an interesting message anyway. Who we got here? Who's with us? CA's with us. How you doing, buddy? Filling in on the Mac and Jack show today, going solo as Jack was not available to come on today, and Mac is laid up, so I'm filling in today, and I don't know about tomorrow. We'll see. I'll have to end the show early tomorrow, if so, because of my own commitment. We have Billy Sample on tomorrow on the 101 with Keith Engle on TGI Sports Talk, so be sure you check that out at 9 a.m. Aaron Rodgers said it would be ridiculous to make a player with his resume audition for next season. He feels he has nothing to prove. If it takes these 5 games, this is too funny. If they want me to stay, fantastic. First of all, they shouldn't want you to stay. Yeah, I know he's got a contract with McAfee. He's got enough money where he could break that contract. He makes $50 million a year. He does himself no favors by going on these shows and saying things. I don't think I should need to audition for my job. If they want me to stay, fantastic. If it takes these 5 games, maybe they don't know what I bring to the table. Nobody knows what you bring to the table except drama. Oh, my God. It's just, I'm so sick of this guy. I don't know what I did over here. Sugar. I don't know what I did here. And I'm looking at my work thing. I did something. Yeah, I somehow got it all wrong. Whatever. I don't know what you bring to the table besides drama anymore. You're not that good. You haven't played well all year. Don't look at the numbers. Watch the games. Watch his immobility. Lack of arm strength at certain times. The man's 41. He'll be 42 next year. He won't be back. If the Jets run this back, how do you sell that to your fans? Oh, we're going to run this back again. Now, I know there's no other quarterback here, but go out and find one. At least a bridge to the future. The draft may not be the place to get it. But if you're going to lose, 13 or 14 games a year, you can certainly do that without Aaron Rodgers as well. He doesn't have to be anything to prove. He said recently he'd be shocked if Woody Owner signs off on another season. Oh, one source said, sorry. He'd be shocked, as would I, if he signed off another season of Rodgers. He's having a bad statistical year. When you look at it, it doesn't look terrible. What else did he say? He said, made a cryptic comment about Johnson regarding in-season firings of Robert Saleh, who he was probably behind, by the way, and General Manager Joe Douglas. What did he say? Rodgers, in general terms, stressed the importance of ownership remaining publicly supportive of team officials through tough times. He used the Detroit Lions as an example of a franchise that did that and has flourished. Oh, my God. Rodgers was that specific about whether Johnson's been publicly supportive. It's a rhetorical question, he said. No, it's not. You were asked a specific question. This was in a weekly news conference Wednesday, not in a McAfee show. Like I said, I cited an example that I've seen. There were probably examples over the years in Green Bay, but I think an important part of ownership is to hire the right guys, set the vision, and support them when the outside world is trying to tear them down. This guy's absolutely clueless. Absolutely 100% clueless. He'll probably be on an indie podcast after a long trip into the wilderness. He obviously wants to play. He's got a big contract. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard it would cost the Jets $26 million or so cap hit to get rid of him this offseason. Do it. I have no idea how you sell this to your fans running this back again. And what coach wants to come in there with this drama that's going on? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So anyway. Oh, the other thing, by the way, I didn't talk about this. We talked about it last night a little bit on the professional sports show here on National Streaming Sports. And the Lions had a little bit of a controversy this week as there's a press conference. I don't have the clip. Bo had it on the show last night, but there's a clip of Campbell at a press conference being asked what he thought about, his offensive schemes. I think it was the blocking schemes being put on social media by Gibbs, the running back, inadvertently standing in front of the board with all the, I believe it was the offensive blocking schemes for all the world to see. And they play through that and they keep winning. I wonder what that conversation sounded like when Campbell talked to Gibbs and said, "What are you doing? Either stay off social media or pay attention to what's in the background." Too freaking funny, man. Major League Baseball. We can go back to NFL. If you guys have comments or topics you want to get into, feel free to bring them up. Major League Baseball. Rob Manfred. This guy just continues to baffle me. The story's already gone away, so I can't even pull up I want to pull up something to refer to. But Rob Manfred has said that there is some support in the league. I doubt it, by the way, for something he called the golden rule, the golden hitter rule, where at any point in the game, first inning, ninth inning, extra innings, You can take any player from your lineup. He could have just made the last out. So theoretically, a guy like Ohtani with the bases loaded and down 3 runs in the 9th inning, he could strike out, and then Roberts could say, you stay up there. Or he could be 6 or 7 hitters away from hitting, and you could just say, put him in there. Same with the Yankees and Aaron Judge. Anybody. You could take your best hitter and put him in, insert him once, any place in the game that you want. How stupid and how ridiculous is this? Continue to change the dynamics of baseball. What's the difference? Right? We've already, to me, illegitimized the stolen base because of shortening the bases, limiting the number of times a guy can throw to first base from the mound. But we continue to just put in ridiculous rules for no reason. No reason. And all of them, nobody ever thinks about what the repercussions are. I mean, records are important, especially in baseball. The numbers are important in baseball, and the counting numbers, which so many of the new trending people, the younger generation, want to discount home runs, RBIs, stolen bases now is a big deal, but it's, again, an inflated stat. They've already screwed that up. So if somebody goes out there and steals 135 bases and breaks Ricky Henderson's record, it's going to be tainted. But we want to forget about all these counting numbers. They don't matter. We want to make up fake numbers like WAR, fake. And we want to continue to put in stupid rules that will now affect RBI totals, home run totals, because you're just going to give a guy a free at bat every game, basically, with the bases loaded or whatever the situation might be. No, that's never going to happen. And if it does, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm probably done talking about baseball. I found a way to live with the stupid rules we put in, eliminating the shift, the pitch clock. There's rules on the books already to speed up games. We didn't need the pitch clock, which has caused pitching injuries, again, affected the stolen base totals. It's just, again, this needs to stop. Rob Manfred needs to get out of baseball. Just stop. Are you sitting in a room with Aaron Rodgers with mushrooms and figuring out all these new rules you want to try to ram down the owner's throats, and then you find some way to apply them into voting for you? Did baseball need some help speeding up games? Yes. But again, enforcing rules in play. Do we need to eliminate the shift? No. Teach guys how to hit correctly. Have a better approach at the plate. Hit the ball where they are knocked. You watch games too; they still find a way to cheat on the shift, and it gets called very rarely. They find a way to cheat it a little bit. But if they put this rule in, you're diametrically changing the game, which they've already done, by the way, to a certain extent. And now you want to do this. Oh, by the way, his last rule, because pitchers don't pitch enough innings because of Major League Baseball and the way they're scared and the way they baby pitchers from the time they sign them right through the time they're in the major leagues. They don't pitch the most important part of the games. Now he wants to put a rule in to say you got to pitch a minimum number of innings. Now you want to put in a golden hitter rule. Why don't we just rewrite the whole rules of baseball and start all over? Let's just end it now. Oh, by the way, you also added all the Negro League stats into the Major League stats. Listen, I'm certainly sympathetic to the fact that blacks didn't get a chance to play the Major Leagues until 1947. I get it. And while the Negro Leagues were good leagues, good baseball, and some great players, I can't add their stats into Major League Baseball. This is all Rob Manfred, all of this. In the meantime, you got two teams going to play in less than 15,000 seat stadiums next year. No timeline for the A's to get to Vegas. There's going to be a big cost to fixing the Tropicana Stadium, or whatever we call that, Tropicana Field, whatever we call that stadium in Tampa now. And Tampa was already talking about playing half their games in Montreal and half their games in in Tampa. Why don't you focus on the real problems? The fact that you might need contraction to keep this league strong because there's too many teams. There are teams that are not being supported. And if you're going to keep these teams that aren't being supported, you need to move them to places like Charlotte, Nashville, places that might support these teams. Might. Too many teams. Oh, Lord. Anyway, that's Major League Baseball. And Soto, by the way, is close to nearing, I guess that's a double. That's repetitive. It looks like his free agency is nearing the final stages. It does still look like the Yankees, the Mets, and the Dodgers. And I got a comment here about the Dodgers. The Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Red Sox, and Blue Jays are all in play. His deal could exceed $600 million and could span 15 years, which fine. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. He's 26 years old. The problem I have is an opt-out that he's asking for, a couple of opt-outs during the course of that 15 years. You want your guaranteed $600 million? Fine, I'll give it to you. But I'm not going to let you renegotiate every, 3 times or 2 times during the course of this contract. I'm just not going to do it. And this is pretty swift. If he does sign here in the next week or couple of weeks or before the holiday or whatever, that's pretty fast for a Boros client who last year had 4 or 5. Snell, Chapman, Montgomery, Bellinger, who remained unsigned into spring training. And the other piece of this is the Dodgers are a candidate here. The Dodgers already signed $1 billion worth of contracts with Ohtani and Yamamoto. Big contract with Snell this year. They signed a big contract with Bellinger 2 years ago. They're definitely circumventing the salary cap, and I think Major League Baseball needs to step in here at some point. I mean, they have deferred $1 billion now owed to 7 players from 28 through 46, 28 through 46. I won't live to see the end of these contracts. Or will I? Let's see. That's 22 years. Oh, Jesus, I hope I live to see the end of these. I'll be 86. That's not so bad. So what they're doing is deferring, like Ohtani's only getting paid $1 on the books for, 5 years, 10 years. But between Snell, here we go, right here. So Edman signed a big contract. He's only going to count, what's he going to count against the cap? Yeah, he gets $5 million next year, and then 12.2 in the final, the 4 final seasons, of which 6.2 million of that will be deferred. Same thing with Snell, big money. Ohtani, we already know he's due $680 million from 34 to 43. So he doesn't count against their cap for peanuts, really, when you look at it. Mookie Betts, same kind of thing. I think they found a unique way to circumvent the salary cap, and I think baseball's going to need to close that loophole. NBA chatter. The Knicks are in the quarterfinals for the NBA Cup. The question is, do we care? Lakers made a big deal about raising this banner last year, and they should have been more excited about building their team up to, win the actual championship. The NBA Cup is, I look at it is it's an interesting in-season tournament that means nothing. I mean, we've got the Bucks against the Magic in the East, the Knicks against the Hawks in the in the East as well in the semifinals. Sorry, those games are going to be played on 12-10 and 12-11. The Thunder and Mavericks are playing on 12:10 as well, and the Rockets and Warriors are playing on 12:10. These games all count in the semifinals, or I'm sorry, all count in league standings. And they're playing, and I think it's tied to the NBA Cup when they play. They have these. The courts are decked out until it hurts my eyes, man. It's like, I mean, Aaron Rodgers would love it when he was on his mushrooms, or whatever psychedelics he was taking. So we don't have a date for the semifinals. I guess it's going to depend because, again, they've got to move the schedule around since these count as regular season games. The semifinals we don't have a date for, and we don't have a date for the championship. But does anybody even care? As a Knicks fan, if the Knicks are excited about winning this thing, look, if you win it, great. But who's putting any real credence into this thing? I'm not. And the gory, and it's a made-for-TV event. That's why we paint the courts these gaudy colors just to try to get some. I don't know. We want to attract a younger viewer, right? When you look at the league too, we're talking about the Lakers winning that. They get beat by 41 last night. By who'd they play last night? By the Heat. On the road. The Lakers are weak, soft. Big mistake with Bronny. Again, don't blame Bronny. Blame the Lakers and blame Daddy. Don't blame Bronny. He should have stayed in college. He's listened to the influence of other people. Lakers have fallen to 12-10, by the way. They're only 4-6 in their last 10. The Knicks, on the other hand, have now won 3 straight, 8-2 in their last 10, 13-8 overall after an up and down start. And I think they'll still have some growing pains as this team grows together. They changed this team a lot this year from a team that had great chemistry. And this team is starting to gain that. I worry about the bench a bit, but I think the Knicks are going to be primed to make a run here in the East. So the East looks really strong. Cavs off to a great start. Playoffs are going to be everything for them. The Celtics have now run off a 9-1 streak to go to 18-4. The Magic playing really good basketball, 8-2 in their last 10. The Bucks, after a horrible start and what looked like maybe another potential player revolt that they had to stall last year, are now 8-2 in their last 10 and have moved over 500. The Hawks as well. The big disappointment, I think, in the East is the Pacers and the Raptors would be the big, and of course the Sixers, 5-15. Embiid plays like every fourth night. Out west, it's weaker. The Thunder's played really good basketball at 16-5. Good young team, well coached. Mavs at 14-8 continue to play well. Thompson coming there has seemed to have helped them. The Suns have played well with that Durant experiment continuing. The Warriors have faded, losing 5 in a row. They were looking really good early. The Clippers are the Clippers. The Nuggets are up and down. The Lakers, again, up and down. The Spurs were playing well early and faded a little bit, but they are over 500. One of last year's big surprises, Timberwolves are around 500. They have won 3 in a row. The Jazz, I think, are maybe the biggest disappointments here, 4-17. And New Orleans is 4-18. Zion Williamson just can't stay healthy. I've talked with Mac and Jack on this show about Zion Williamson and the potential of coming to the Knicks, and I have said over and over again, I don't want him here. He's an injury. He's always hurt. He's hurt again now. He's a remarkable basketball player when he's healthy, but just not enough time on the court, and maybe I shouldn't be throwing rocks, right? But I'm not an NBA superstar. Not enough attention to conditioning, fundamentals of the game. Again, fundamentals of the game lack everywhere. The NBA, MLB, the NFL, even probably the NHL, which might be still the most fundamentally sound league we have. So there's a little news there, and I'll leave you today. We'll spend a few minutes talking about the college football huddle, or the college football standings, rankings, and I'll give you my picks for this weekend. I'm going to give you 3. I'll give you every game, or I won't give you every game. I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to give you the 3 picks like Mac would normally ask me for in the championship games this weekend. We have an exciting. I think we have an exciting group of games here, Friday and Saturday. Friday, we got Vegas going to Boise State. We got Tulane going to Army. UNLV is a big game. That's a winner. Winning get in. There's Chris F. Grave with us this morning. Good morning. It could be a group of big picks. We'll look more at all the games maybe tomorrow if I'm here filling in for Mac. We hope Mac is on the road to recovery, by the way. And if I am here tomorrow, Jack should be joining me to help eat up some of this time. My voice is almost gone after 4 hours on the air last night and another one this morning. But this Vegas Boise State game, and you're right, I think there was easy picks last week, Chris, by the way. In the leagues that I'm in, there was at least 4 people went 16-0, and a bunch of others went 15-1. I was not one of them with the straight up picks as far as we're talking there with. I'll give you some college games to look at this weekend, though, Chris. This Vegas Boise State game, big game because the winner of this game is going to have the group of 5 nod. And the loser is not getting in a large bid. There could be some groundswell for Boise State, but a 2-loss Boise State team is not getting in over a 3-loss Alabama team. Not going to happen. Tulane will go to Army, really playing for pride here. Army still has the Army-Navy game next week after the championship game. Bit of a quirk in the schedule. It's not a league game, even though they're both playing in the American Athletic Conference now. Iowa State and Arizona State, huge implications here because the winner's in and the loser's out. And the winner here, even though Miami is ranked 12th now, they won't be ranked 12th after this game because the Big 12 team winner has got to be in that 12-team field. Miami will get bumped out. No chance to improve their resume. They're not playing this week. They're done. Georgia and Texas playing for seeding really in the first round bye. Georgia loses, Texas loses. They're going to be in the field. I'm not betting it, but I like Georgia. I'll give you the 3 games that I think I'm going to bet for sure. Penn State will go to Oregon. No, again, seeding and bye implications here only. Penn State will not drop out if they lose. Of course, Oregon will not either as they're undefeated. And then the one that might be the most important game for Alabama is Clemson and SMU at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. If SMU wins this, then fine. They've got a bye most likely. And the ACC championship. Clemson wins this. It really throws things into a bit of a one last chaotic run up to the Tuesday final announcement of the field. Because if SMU loses, the question is going to become, does a 2-loss SMU team who played in their conference championship rate over Alabama, who has 3 losses in the SEC, a superior conference? So the schedule was superior to SMU's, without a doubt. I think it was the 16th toughest schedule in the country, if I'm not mistaken. So if Clemson wins, they're going to bump somebody out. It's probably going to be Alabama because there's nobody else to bump. I don't think you're going to bump Indiana. You're not going to get a 1-loss Big Ten team knocked out over a 3-loss SEC team. Now, with all that said, I don't think it's going to happen. I think SMU will win this game, and I'll give you my 3 picks here in just a second. Rick's got a couple of comments. Yeah, we don't have, and we'll get all the different. I'm not sure. I think they may announce the whole bowl schedule next Tuesday night. I'm not positive. I think Army will get a decent bowl, and Syracuse will as well. Syracuse at 9-3 had a really good season. They beat it's funny that they had a weird season. They beat 3 ranked opponents. They lost to 3 unranked opponents. But Syracuse has got an exciting football team wherever they go. I'd love to see Syracuse play somebody in the Holiday Bowl, a game that's always got great explosive teams, it seems, and Syracuse would seem like a great fit for the Holiday Bowl this year. But so these teams that play this weekend, I mean, Clemson loses, they're out. Vegas or Boise State loses, they're out. Iowa State or Arizona loses, they're out. But there's only one scenario that I think, again, there would be a swap of Boise State and Vegas. That one's pretty straightforward. The real question is going to come from that Clemson SMU game. If Clemson upsets SMU, now becomes the question, does Bama belong in the field? Right now, I believe Bama belongs in the field. I really do. I don't know how Miami's even ranked 12, and it doesn't matter because they're going to be out of the field anyway. But I would have ranked South Carolina and Ole Miss ahead of Miami after what I've seen. And as you know, I'm a Miami Hurricane fan. Chris, what do you got? Can't wait for Keith's top shoe box pick, cigar box pick of the week. And here you go, Chris, right now. Here are the games I like, and I'm likely betting 3 of these games I've talked about. I love Oregon minus 3.5 over Penn State. James Franklin doesn't beat top 5 teams. Oregon's undefeated. They beat everybody you put in front of them. They had a couple close calls early in the year. This team got better and better. Dylan Gabriel, while maybe not overwhelming stats, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions for 3,200 yards. A very capable quarterback, doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Penn State just has not shown the offensive ability, whether it's talent or scheme or both, to be able to put up numbers against really good teams. Oregon plays good defense as well. They're really good in the trenches, and that's why this team has I want to say exceeded expectations, why they've thrived in their first year in the Big Ten. It's a much different conference than the Pac-12. That doesn't mean the Pac-12 was terrible. They just played a different brand of football, and there wasn't as much physicality in the trenches in my mind. And Oregon was prepared for that. Washington to a lesser degree, but the 2 teams from LA, no, they were not. Oregon minus 3.5. Or Arizona State, one of the hottest teams in the country, by the way. They've won their last 5 games. They had a bad loss to Cincinnati. Oh, Cincinnati was better than we thought they'd be this year on the road. But other than that, they won 7 of their last 8. The only other loss was to Texas Tech by 8 on the road. So 2 losses on the road, not horrible losses. But they've beaten in the last, and Oklahoma State, by the way, undefeated, or no victories, I should say, in conference. But in the last several weeks, they've beaten Kansas State and BYU, an arch rival Arizona by a ton. Dillingham inherited a messier, youngest coach in college football at 34 years old. He's doing a great job. I like Arizona State minus 2.5 over Iowa State a lot here. And the last game I will give you is going to be the SMU Mustangs playing their most important game in about 40 years since they had the death penalty in the 80s. This game is in Charlotte, which maybe gives Clemson an advantage. I don't know. Clemson has not been a very consistent football team. Klubnik has played okay, not great. But SMU does everything well. They run the football well. They've got a really strong offensive line. 2 quarterbacks, if they should have any issue with injury or whatnot, that play at basically the same level, which is very high level. Their defense has played better than you would expect. I like SMU minus 2.5 in this game as well. So these picks are brought to you by BetUs.com. Check that out and make sure you go through the National Streaming Sports link to do that. So there's the teams that I like. this weekend, and we'll see if there's some chaos. The only chance for real chaos is going to be, and maybe some mad people if Alabama stays in over SMU, is if they were to lose to Clemson. Again, Rick, I will challenge you to tell me a team that belongs in there above, in front of Alabama. We don't have much time left, but nobody's really given me a solid argument. Of the teams that got left behind, who are you going to put in? You're going to put Miami in over Alabama? No. I'm a Miami fan. I'm going to tell you no. Are you going to put in Ole Miss? No. I mean, Ole Miss, I might give you an argument. South Carolina, who played great football this year, no, they lost to Alabama head-to-head. I mean, what team? Clemson as an at-large? Alabama right now, as a field stands, belongs in this tournament. If SMU loses, they don't belong anymore because SMU should get that at-large bid. I mean, they played a better schedule than any of these teams that we talked about. Who did Ole Miss lose to? We talk about Alabama's losses all the time. They lost to a bad Kentucky team. They lost to LSU. And they lost to Florida, again, who played better football. But yeah, if people harp on the Vandy loss and the Oklahoma loss, I would argue that this Kentucky loss is worse than either one of those. And South Carolina, unfortunately, just didn't get it going soon enough. They had losses at LSU, a bit of a controversial loss. They lost to Ole Miss. They lost to Alabama. So how do you put them above either Ole Miss or Alabama? I mean, you can't just take Alabama out because we don't like Alabama. You know, you got to have a reason. And you got to have somebody to replace them. Ooh. It's Alabama fatigue. Nick Saban's gone. This team is, has it played a great schedule? No. But it lost to Tennessee, who was ranked at the time. They lost, and then Oklahoma and Vandy hurt, but Vanderbilt got themselves ranked for the first time in a gazillion years. They also gave Texas a run. Again, why aren't we hearing the vitriol? Why is Texas number 2? Look at their schedule. I'll give you kudos for your team belonging, loss or no, in this championship game, Rick, because they in Florida probably played the 2 toughest schedules in the country. And Georgia got by, with just 2 losses. But let's remember, they also lost to Alabama and nearly got blown out of the building. So Alabama deserves to be in this field. Happy birthday to Art Monk. Speaking of Syracuse, former Orangeman, Art Monk, great player in the NFL with the Redskins. I've been trying to get Art Monk on my show for a while. We'll try that again. Every time I see this, I see a name and I go back and revisit it, Chris. So thank you. It gives me a little impromptu thought to do this. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up, guys, today. Maybe we'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully Mac's back in this seat tomorrow. And we'll be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We got Billy Sample on TJ Sports Talks one-on-one with Keith Engle. Billy Sample, former Texas Ranger, Yankee, and Brave. They did a lot of announcing afterwards. We'll talk to Billy about his career as well. And we got some other interesting guys coming up soon, by the way. We were going to have Jim Graziano on, former South Carolina star center back in the 70s. Who else we got lined up? Artis Gilmore soon. Rick Barry, we're still back and forth when I talk to him, and then he goes dark. But we got a few other guys lined up. Guys, we'll have a great Friday. Feel better, Matt.